On this channel, we provide useful programming information with practical code examples. This time, we'll be looking at SASS modules. We explain how to modularize SASS using @use and @forward, and how to reuse variables, mixins, functions, theme settings, and public APIs. Enabling subtitles will make the code descriptions easier to understand. SASS's module system helps clearly scope styles and provides a design that is easy to reuse and maintain. SASS modules solve issues of global namespace pollution and unclear dependencies that were present with the old @import. Each file is loaded as a module with its own namespace, and only the items explicitly exported are accessible from other files. First, here is an example of a realistic project structure. Below is an example of a small design system. This structure makes modularization easy as well as testing and replacing parts. Partial files have an underscore at the beginning of the file name. @use loads a module and provides a namespace. This prevents name collisions and clarifies the source module. This file is a simple one that only defines variables. Variables published from a module can be referenced directly using @use. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. Here, the variables module is referenced with the variables namespace. This approach makes the origin of each item clear. Using as allows you to shorten the namespace. This is an example of importing variables using the shorter alias vars. Choose names based on whether you prioritize readability or ease of typing. Mixins and functions can also be defined and used within modules. Keeping comments consistent with the project's conventions helps with clarity. This file defines a mixin for containers. It takes arguments and provides default values. This is an example of using a mixin with @include. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. Functions are used to return values, and can be defined and reused within modules. By encapsulating calculations for design values in functions, styles become more stable and easier to maintain. This file defines a function that converts pixel values to rem. A default base value is also specified. Here is an example of calling a function via @use and applying the result to a style. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. When you want to expose multiple internal files externally, you can use @forward to create a public API. Multiple internal files can be grouped as a single entry point, which then provides the public API. This allows consumers to access all needed features by importing just one entry point. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. The contents of variables and mixins are accessed collectively through the index. @forward makes index the public layer. If you want to expose only specific variables, use the show or hide option. Adding default allows you to publish a value that can be overwritten. By using show with @forward, you can limit the exposed API to only the necessary elements. Variables and functions used internally will not be visible from outside. If you use default in the module, values can be overridden using with on the import side. A module with default values defined by default can accept configurations via with. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. With in @use allows overriding default variables in a module at import time. This is useful for theme switching. Note that with only takes effect at import time and you cannot change those values later. Let's try designing button styles using modules. First, separate variables and mixins into their own modules. Default variables for buttons are defined here. Using default allows consumers to override these values. The base mixin for buttons is defined here. They are separated for easy reuse. Button styles are created using namespace references with @use. A variant is defined as button large. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. By importing the button module, you can use the button styles immediately. Theme switching can be done by configuration via with or by creating separate modules and changing which one is used with at use. Define brand colors and other settings in multiple theme files and switch them during build or import. When the SASS file is compiled to CSS, it will look like this. Choose the theme by either using with or by importing, for example, at use themes light during the build process. In SASS, adding an underscore to the beginning of a file name marks it as a partial. However, when managing module export visibility, use show and hide with at forward to control what is exported. You can use at forward to organize the public API and hide internal implementations from outside. Below are some basic concepts that are useful when using SASS in practical situations. All of these guidelines will help reduce confusion during development and keep your code organized. If variables are likely to change as part of a theme, add default. This makes it easier for users to override values. Modules should be divided by responsibility and focused on a single purpose. It becomes easier to manage by separating variables, mixins, and components. Manage public contents with at forward and use show or hide as necessary. Defining the scope of what is public leads to safer design. Use namespaces to make it clear which module each function belongs to. This prevents confusion with other code. Remember that with only works at the time of at use. Since you can't change them later, set configurations at import time. Use an underscore at the beginning of file names to make them partials, so they are not compiled individually. This makes it easier to combine files into a larger structure. Including usage examples in the index module helps with testing and documentation. It becomes easier for users to understand the behavior. Keeping these points in mind will help you manage large projects and maintain readable code as a team. The SASS module system organizes style code through namespaces, public APIs, and simplified configuration. Skillfully using at use and at forward makes team development, theme switching, and library design much easier. The source code for this video can be downloaded from the official website. If you like, please visit the URL in the description to aid your learning. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to the channel and look forward to the next video.